Look, in today's wild economic landscape, trying to pick the right financial guide can honestly feel a bit like walking through a minefield completely blindfolded. Your money is basically screaming for protection right now, and that is exactly why we put together this explainer. Today, we're doing a completely honest, deep dive review of Kirk Elliott Precious Metals, also known as Sovereign Advisors. We're going to strip away all the marketing fluff to see if their strategy actually holds water, weigh the real pros and cons, and look at exactly what you get if you decide to sign up with them.
Here is a quick roadmap for our explainer today. We'll cover 1. Wild markets, steady hands. 2. Who is Kirk Elliott? 3. What you actually get. 4. The pros and cons. 5. What clients are saying. And 6. The final verdict.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, Wild Markets, Steady Hands.
Just think about this number for a second. 31%. Back in late January 2026, the precious metals market suffered an absolutely violent correction. Silver had its worst trading session in history, plummeting over 31% in a single day. To kind of put that into perspective for you, the previous largest one-day drop was way back in 2011, and that was only around 17%.
What's really crazy here is the sheer scale of the chaos, which was mapped out in a recent Afi Invest asset management report. Silver literally cratered from $114 down to $78 an ounce in just hours. Gold fell by over $600, its worst session in 13 years. And all of this was driven by a nasty cocktail of macroeconomic shifts, changing expectations around U.S. monetary policy, and just a total lack of market circuit breakers. When markets start moving this violently, having an advisor who actually understands the big picture isn't just a nice-to-have, it's absolutely critical.
Which brings us to Section 2, who is Kirk Elliott? So who exactly is the guy behind the company? Well, Dr. Kirk Elliott has a highly academic, genuinely impressive background. We're talking a bachelor's in business administration, a master's in international studies, a PhD in public policy and administration, and a second PhD in theology, plus decades of finance experience. But here is the absolute most important distinction you need to wrap your head around right now. Kirk Elliott, PhD, is an advisory firm that uses precious metals to build wealth plans. They are not your traditional direct precious metals dealer. They're strategizing and advising, not just selling you silver coins straight out of a warehouse. Their whole core philosophy is branded as people over profit. They claim they're all about prioritizing long-term, intergenerational relationships over making a quick buck on a transaction. It's a very holistic vibe, leaning heavily into the idea that an empowered, fully informed investor is ultimately the most successful one.
Let's move on to Section 3, what you actually get.
They operate using this proprietary 4-step playbook. Step 1 is educate. They sit down and assess your personal goals against what's happening in the macroeconomy. Step 2 is empower. They share their market analysis so you actually understand the why behind what they're telling you to do. Step 3 is equip, building out that tangible asset portfolio. And step 4 is engage, basically a lifelong partnership to manage your wealth so you can pass it on to the next generation. It's super customized. Honestly, no two plans look exactly the same. Now, a huge chunk of how they equip you is through self-directed precious metals IRAs. If you want to diversify away from a crazy stock market, they'll help you integrate gold and silver into traditional, Roth, simple, and SEP IRAs, along with 401ks and TSPs. Quick side note here, though. If you're an American investor sitting on more than $100,000 in an IRA, 401k, or other investable assets, and you want a top-tier direct dealer rather than an advisory firm, check the description right now for our absolute top recommended gold IRA company. Okay, back to Kirk Elliott. They basically hold your hand to get these accounts set up and funded.
So where does all this metal actually go? When you buy physical metals in an IRA, the IRS says they have to be securely stored. Kirk Elliott points clients to the Texas Precious Metals Depository, or TPMD, and their storage rates are actually highly competitive. They scale down based on your account size, from 0.40% annually for accounts under $100,000, all the way down to 0.25% if you've got over $5 million. Best part, zero setup, deposit, or withdrawal fees.
And you are definitely not sacrificing security for those low rates. TPMD is no joke. We're talking Fort Knox level protection. Bulletproof doors, biometric scanners, metal detectors, the whole 9 yards, with 24/7 video surveillance. Even better, your metals are kept in fully segregated storage. That means your stuff is never mixed up with anyone else's. And if anything shady were to happen, they're wired straight into local law enforcement for an immediate response.
Okay, Section 4, the pros and cons.
So let's look at the actual ledger here. On the pros side, you get highly qualified economists
total transparency, fully customized wealth plans, and they even do a ton of charitable work, which is awesome. But the cons are pretty massive depending on your situation. First, they aren't a direct dealer. If you just want to log on and buy some Silver Eagles quickly, this isn't for you. But the real kicker? Because of licensing, they only operate in 8 states, mostly in the South and West, like Colorado, Florida, and Arizona. If you live anywhere else, you literally cannot use their advisory services. Seriously, if you're in the other 42 states and need a dealer that can actually work with you, jump into the description below and bookmark our constantly updated Best Gold IRAs blog post.
Moving to Section 5, what clients are saying.
When you look at the positive reviews, clients rave about the relationship building. Reviewers like Mason, for example, talk about how responsive the team is and how great it feels to have a dedicated guide. Over on their Facebook page, people clearly have a lot of deep-seated trust in Dr. Elliott. They praise his honesty and love the macroeconomic advice he brings to the table.
But then you hit this number, 2.57. That is their average customer review score out of 5 stars on the Better Business Bureau. Now, the BBB itself gives the company an A+ rating, but the customer reviews, very mixed bag. You've got some folks expressing serious frustration with the customer service after their money was invested. Some even questioned the financial advice they received, claiming that if they had followed the firm's guidance on selling their metals, they would have taken a loss. So, while their hyper-customized approach is clearly a game changer for some, it definitely hasn't hit the mark for everybody.
And finally, Section 6, the final verdict.
So what's the bottom line here? Is Kirk Elliott, Ph.D., the right call for your money? Well, if you actually live in one of the 8 states they service, and you want a deeply academic, long-term advisor to help you build a legacy plan with precious metals, they are absolutely a legitimate, qualified choice. But if you just want to buy gold directly, or you live in any of the other 42 states, this boutique advisory model is an automatic no-go.
So here is your game plan. First, double-check your state eligibility if the advisory route sounds good to you. Second, if you've got over $100,000 to invest and you want our top-tier direct dealer recommendation instead, hit that link in the description right now. And lastly, do yourself a favor and bookmark our Best Gold IRAs blog post so you're always up to speed on your options.
Look, in a world where 31% of an asset's value can just vanish into thin air on a random Tuesday afternoon, leaving your retirement up to chance just doesn't cut it anymore. You absolutely need a strategy. Whether that's partnering with a boutique firm like Kirk Elliott or going with a highly rated direct dealer, the facts are on the table. The markets are definitely moving. So, what's your next move?